Hello, podcasting live nations. How's it going out there, folks out there in the wonderful lands of Cybernetics? Your host here, Mr. Cyberneticshark for the MCU'S Bleeding Edge here with our all new live stream for you guys today. So we'll be discussing, of course, the fifth episode of Marvel's What If tonight. We have a amazing crew once again with us. We actually have kind of a reuniting trio of our amazingness with us tonight. We actually have our great friend Mr. Perry back with us again. Thank you for coming back, sir. And we have our amazing original trio here tonight, so we're going to give you a wonderful show. It's going to be amazing. Of course, we also have Mr. Jeff Sloboda here, our other MCU Bleeding Edge man.
It's good to be a whole, man. It's good to be a whole. Nice to have the whole squad together.
It is nice to be a squad again. Yes, I totally agree. So we're going to go right into this, people. So I hope you guys enjoy. So to start us off, so this episode, the fifth episode, is actually called What If Zombies? That's right, zombies. So we finally got our zombie episode finally today. And it was really interesting because I wasn't too sure exactly, what we were going to be looking for in this. Because I know a lot of people, when they saw, like, the promo for this, they were like, oh, this is probably going to be really cool. And I wasn't too sure if it was going to be as cool as they had made it out to be, but that did prove me wrong. I thought it was actually a pretty decent episode. So, to start us off, I mean, I think it's kind of interesting how they started the episode. So we're going to talk a little bit about that right off the bat, guys. So what did you guys think about how it kind of started out like the beginning of Infinity War? We had, where Hulk basically gets sent by Heimdall down to, where Doctor Strange's place is. And that's basically how this whole episode starts for us. So what were you guys' thoughts when you saw that Hulk was being passed down to Doctor Strange's place, and then he comes, he gets there and he says his words, and then all of a sudden it's like nobody's there. What were you guys' thoughts? So let's start with you, Perry. What did you think about that beginning?
Yeah, it was like you were saying, like you said, I wasn't sure where it was going to start, where it was going to end, like where they were going to place this and all that stuff. It was, I think that was like the perfect place to kind of start it. And obviously, like they probably wrote it 100 different ways and then came down to this one. But that was one of that entrance into it was a great place to bring Bruce Banner into the fold of like what's already going on. It kind of felt like you were being dropped in with Bruce Banner into the situation, and now you're like what's going on, you know what I mean? So that, I think that was like the perfect way to kind of bring people into that intro into this episode of What If, of the zombie episode. I enjoyed it. I think that was like a cool way to do it, because we were reacting with Bruce's, like, the same kind of like what's going on. He was doing that, we were doing that. So I thought that was good.
Totally agree. Completely agree. How about you, Jeff?
I thought that this, overall, I'll put it out there right now that, as I've already mentioned earlier, this was my favorite What If episode so far. I really, really, really liked this one. I mean, I loved every part of it. I really did. I enjoyed the hell out of it. For as short of an episode as it was, they really unpacked a lot of story in it. You know what I mean? Like, and honestly, what I thought, basically what I felt at the point that Banner fell into the Sanctum Sanctorum, and nobody was there, I really wasn't sure what the hell was going on. You know what I mean? Like, I honestly, when Thanos's people, like the Dark Order, dropped down from the ship, I thought it was going to just be them, like from Infinity War, and they were going to, say the whole spiel, like, you're about to be killed. I can't remember. Did the guy talk? The what's his name? The guy from the Dark Order. Did he actually speak?
Yeah. He said that line. He was like, "You have the honor of being killed by Thanos' children."
So did they become zombies right then when they first showed up, or something, or were they already zombies at that point?
No, they weren't. They became zombies when the Avengers popped up. when the Avengers, when Iron Man, Wong, and Doctor Strange all of a sudden pop up, you see those circles and stuff going on. They attack them and bit
Oh,
them.
yes. Yes, and that's what I thought was just like outstanding about this whole deal. The concept that these characters, these Avengers characters and Wong and everything are zombies, yet they're still using their superpowers and their abilities and strategies and stuff like that. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, that's really different. I've never seen anything like that before in any kind of zombie trope that I can think of. I mean,
Yeah.
I just assume that if, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I never read the Marvel Comics zombie storyline, the new one that came out a couple of years back. I haven't read it yet, so I need to. But I wasn't aware that they actually retained their abilities and stuff like that, and like could still fight and like all that stuff. I thought once they became zombies, they just became mindless zombies, you know. So I wasn't sure what the hell was going on when I saw Iron Man acting like Iron Man and like fighting and everything strategically. I'm like, okay, that's Tony Stark. That's Iron Man. Like, it didn't even occur to me that they were zombies. And then when they actually turned out to be zombies and started eating the Dark Order, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And like from then on, the episode just went into such a fun direction, and it really kind of brought things back home for me. Like, you know, the Infinity War like connections were really fun to see. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I really did. I loved the whole Infinity War, you know, connection. And I felt like it was nostalgic, but they didn't overdo it. Like, they did the quick thing and then that was it. It was over. And then they moved on with the story. But at the same time, there was the immediate, and I know we're going to get into this on the next step of this, but there's that immediate collaboration of all the different characters that you get in, just like Infinity War in the MCU. Like, we got, like, when we all saw Infinity War, there was that like awesome synergy of like seeing all these characters together for the first time. That's kind of how I felt nostalgically like about this episode.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. I mean, there was a lot of camaraderie in this episode, and they definitely like putting these certain characters together we hadn't seen in any MCU film yet. So that the fact that they did that with What If actually gave you that nostalgic feeling, like you're saying, and that was also something my wife was saying too about the episode. She thought that was cool that you got to see all these different characters together, you know, that you hadn't seen previously, you know, do anything together. So yeah, I completely agree with that, most definitely. So we have the beginning opening, you know, Bruce, you know, he's comes out, he's about to fight Ma and I forget what the other gentleman's name is, the bigger guy. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere comes, you know, Tony Stark and Doctor Strange and Wong, and they're like beating them up and all that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden, that's when we get the first glimpse at, oh, holy crap, they're zombies, which is so cool and so awesome. I love that, you know, they ended up doing the zombie version. So, and then all of a sudden, you know, he's about being attacked by them. And then out of nowhere, all of a sudden, somebody pops up to help Bruce, none other than Wasp herself. So, this was our first time seeing kind of like Wasp away from just Ant-Man and, you know, kind of doing her own thing. So, I thought that was really cool. And you know, she comes there, and then all of a sudden, you know, Bruce is swung off by none other than Spider-Man. Spider-Man's another one that survived. I was like, okay, this is cool. They got Spider-Man, they got Wasp that have survived, and then they kind of go back to their base, where they, you know, have, you know, taken Bruce and stuff, and they want to show him like this video that Peter has created, which totally made me think of the beginning of Homecoming, and that gave me that whole Homecoming vibe and stuff like that. So what did you guys think about when he like is presenting that video to Bruce to show him what's going on? What were your guys' thoughts when that kind of popped up? They like at first showed him like putting up the typesetting for like the you know, saying, oh, this is the instructional video for, you know, surviving the zombie apocalypse. What were your guys' thoughts? So let's start with you, Perry.
Yeah, that was really fun. Like, it felt very Spider-Man. Like that was one of those moments where it was like, oh, okay, like these characters are still these characters, and we still get to have like that fun moment with them and stuff. And that you kind of see the theme throughout this is that like Spider-Man is going to be like the guy that's like kind of holding this thing together with his like ability to keep people like energized a little bit, you know. So that was a great like video, and it was so funny, you know. Like it just cracked me up watching it. So that was the video was awesome. Yeah.
What about when they brought in David Dashman's character into this fold, which I think is really awesome, and he opens the curtain and Bucky's taking a shower. That scene was absolutely freaking hilarious. I was like laughing. He grabs him by the neck, and he's like, "That's a really strong arm." It's and it's like can't get
It's waterproof.
it's waterproof, which is freaking hilarious. I was just cracking up so hard because like I was saying before, yeah, it totally gave me that Homecoming vibe.
Yeah.
With the video he begins with at the beginning. So yeah, totally agree there with you. How about you, Jeff? What did you think about that scene?
Well, I thought it was kind of similar to what Perry said. I think that it was really refreshing to see Spider-Man like being Spider-Man, and I thought that the whole I'm trying to think of a movie maybe that I've seen that maybe I can think of that might be similar, but I can't really think of anything as far as like, where the pace of the story and the episode immediately like went with this like whole homemade video with a cell phone, like playfully like like unveiling all the characters that are there like in this universe, like that are left, I guess, as the Avengers kind of, you know what I mean? Like, what a great ensemble group. Like really, like I loved it. I mean, they could have, there's a lot of different things they could have done, but I mean, who they ended up putting together to be the survivors was great. Like I loved seeing Sharon Carter. I love Sharon Carter. You guys know I love Sharon Carter. I feel like, Sharon Carter, basically, to me, this is like a little bit sidestepping, but I feel like to this day, I still feel like they underused her in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and like she should have had a bigger part in it. And I don't like her being the power broker and everything and whatnot. But obviously, we'll see what happens. Maybe she's a Skrull, so who knows? Like you never know. But I love seeing Sharon Carter. I love seeing the interactions between Spider-Man and the different people, because obviously, just like in the comics or like in the other movies, it's always fun to see Peter Parker's like dialogue with other people and other characters and stuff like that. And so it was really cool seeing how nonchalant they all were about the whole zombie apocalypse deal. I thought that was kind of weird in a way. Like I was like, well, they seem really like, okay with where things are at. But I love the fact that Okoye was there. Like that really made me happy that she was a part of it. I really like that. And like, I think that, essentially, I also was really happy that Hope Van Dyne was a part of the team, because I feel like, I don't know what that was, but but anyways, I feel like basically like I don't feel nostalgic or anything like that when it comes to the whole idea of her being an original Avenger type character, and the fact that they didn't actually make her more of a part of the Avengers during her time in the MCU. I'm okay with that. But it was kind of, in a way, again, nostalgic. It was interesting to see her basically being a part of the Avengers in a way. You know what I mean? Like a core Avenger, just like she was in the comics way back in the day. And I just like her character in general. So I was happy that she popped up as like one of the survivors. I love Hope Van Dyne. I think that she's a really interesting character. I would have rather seen her than seen like Ant-Man at that point. And obviously we'll get to that later, but yeah, I mean, that's basically it. It was just the camaraderie, the fact that Peter was making that stupid video, like, like during like such a serious situation was funny. It was funny, and that Kurt character was funny. Like, he's the one like non-superhuman person or whatever out of everybody or whatever that just like a part of the team. I love seeing Happy Hogan using the Iron Man gloves, the from the suit. That shit was really cool.
Yeah,
I like
that was awesome.
Totally, I totally agree with that. Like when when Hoagie all of a sudden pops up there and he has the glove on and everything, I'm just kind of like laughing, like, yeah, Happy would have the Iron Man glove. He totally would, and like just like how they had that similar chemistry as they do in the actual Spider-Man films in this episode was really fun too. And just like everyone has said, yeah, the camaraderie in this episode was really fun because you all had all these different characters working with each other. And so I thought it was kind of apropos, because we get a kind of a glimpse of, something happened to Ant-Man, and so only hope is left from the Ant-Man film. So incorporating the Ant-Man film like into this, kind of like what they did with the episode where all the Avengers are killed off. I thought that was kind of fun that they finally included, Hope into the scope of it and into the story. So I thought that was really cool, and she was kind of like the main kind of like vision of this episode a little bit because she's saying that it's her fault why this virus took over and turned everyone into zombies. And so I thought that was kind of an interesting take of taking that, and as we saw in the episode too, Hope mentions how it was because when her father went down to get their mother, she's the one that brought back the virus that caused this whole thing to go on 2 weeks prior to when this is supposed to be happening, when it's supposed to be Avengers Infinity War. And I thought, that was just a really cool way of taking it too. So I completely agree with you guys there. So, as we move on, after, we see that Peter video and stuff and we get introduced to more of the characters, we move on a little bit more and they're like basically go on, on the road kind of to try to find a cure for this disease. And as they go on, that's when we start losing characters. And so my next question is, what did you guys think about that? Like all of a sudden they started like zombifying characters, like after kind of like that beginning portion of the film, like all of a sudden we started losing, certain characters. Sharon, gets taken by Cap. We get, we get so many different characters. All of a sudden they start getting, taken out and becoming zombies themselves. So what were you guys' thoughts on that? Like on that they all of a sudden started killing off some of these surviving Avengers. Let's start with you, Perry.
Yeah, I think that was like a important part of like this being like giving it some weight, like when you're dropped in, you already have like some of the characters that are already like turned into zombies, and but it was good to see like you lose some of those characters too that were still okay, and you're starting to get like that feeling of like, all right, who's gonna make it to the end kind of thing. And there was some like really cool moments within that where it was like a lot of different like action points where you were like, oh, they're gonna die there, nope, not, never mind. Like and there was like some like it seemed like anybody who died was like sacrificing themselves in some way, shape, or form for this moment, and like to get to the end point. And I think that is like parallel to like how all the characters felt when going into Endgame. So this is like just this is like a paralleled version of that, just in a different way with similar themes, but like telling a different story. So I thought that was a good addition, like and allowing them to have fun with it, like not being like, oh, we can't take away this person, we can't take away this person, but they're just giving themselves the creative leeway to just be like, tell the story.
Don't you guys kind of feel like there's just an interconnectivity there where like it almost felt like an Avengers film in a way?
Very much so.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah. I mean that like correlation with just how uh it started off like Infinity War, an Avengers movie. I mean, that fact right there, like, totally just made it seem like that, you know? So, I mean, that's, to me, I felt like I was watching an Avengers film, you know, in whole, so.
Well, I feel like it's funny because in comparison to when they did the Avengers episode for episode 3, when, you know, what if the mightiest heroes never happened or whatever, or they all died, that was very, like, not depressing, but like, deflating to me. Like, it, you know what I mean? It wasn't very exciting. It wasn't very, you know, I didn't feel that tied into it or connected. Whereas with this, as the story was progressing and, like, you know, continuing to pick up steam, I guess, you know, the fact that the team was at least together for a while they did start to lose people, made it feel more like a whole, like, you know, what we're used to in the MCU, I guess.
Very true, very true. I would agree with that too.
Yeah.
So I mean, is that your take on it, Jeff? On the question I just asked?
I think that it was like I was saying to you earlier, Cyber. In a way, this episode actually hit me the way that live action affects me. Like, that's basically the difference with this episode compared to the other episodes of the What If. For me, this is the first one where I looked at this one and I was like, wow, I actually feel like little tugs in my, like, chest, like, about people dying and stuff like that, and, like, losing people, you know, and people sacrificing themselves and everything, and, like, it was powerful. And so it kind of felt like live action in a way, like that same gravity and that same, like, you know, effect and feel and impact. But at the same time, I feel like the weight of this was a lot different than the weight of, like, episode 3, where, like, all these Avengers were just dying, like, you know, for whatever reason, we didn't know why, they were just dying off. In this case, there was an actual, like, you know, bad guy to fight, zombies, you know, like it was against them versus the zombies. I love zombie, like, shows and zombie movies. I love the freaking I love The Walking Dead. I always have. Like, I've fallen behind on like the seasons at this point. I've got to go back, but The Walking Dead is a great show. At least, like, the first 5 or 6 seasons of that show are ridiculously good. I don't care, like, you know, is it graphic? Yes, but, like, I like the zombie aspect of the whole episode. I think it's the fact that there's zombies, and that's part of, like, what they're dealing with, is the fact that, like, at any point they could be bitten or whatever and become a zombie. I love that whole vibe. I enjoy that type of, like, film show. Like, I love it. If, like, Alexis said when we did the episode 4 review that she thought that they could make, like, a live action movie almost with, like, what they did with the Doctor Strange episode 4 of What If, I don't agree with that. This right here, this zombie story in this episode, I could see them doing that in a film.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Totally.
it'd be a really interesting film. It'd be cool. It'd be a cool. It'd be cool if they could do, like, if they take these notions of like the what if stuff and
If they did a what if
off.
movie,
yeah,
on something like this, and they had like the Avengers as a part of it, and, like,
right.
they had like a concept like this zombie concept. Are you kidding me? It would be perfect.
Yeah, it would be really cool.
I think that would be a very big hit. Yeah, most definitely, if they decided to make that into a live action film. Because I feel like with the What If going on right now, I feel a lot of people want What If into the actual Marvel universe as a live action format now, because they've seen what Marvel has done with it and the beauty of what it looks like. Even though this is just animation, like you've said, Jeff, I feel like this episode, like you were saying, this one seems like you're watching a live action episode. So, I mean, I could see it playing really well and translating really well into a live action format of some sort.
Oh,
so
I'm putting it out there right now, Cyber. I don't mean to cut you off, but it would not shock me if they literally promoted and said, we're going to do a zombie what if movie. Like, with, you know, we're going to throw all the Avengers characters in there that you all know and love, but we're going to take them out of their usual universe, and put them in this parallel dimension, parallel universe of zombies and like a zombie apocalypse and everything, it would be a smash box office hit.
Yeah, most definitely, most definitely. So before we go further on, I would like to share the promo with our live streamers out there, just to kind of give you a kind of a little bit of an introduction or a little bit of a refresher to what we're talking about in this episode. So, Jeff, if you have that ready, we'd like to see that, sir.
Time.
Oh, that's episode 4. Give me a minute on that, brother.
So, folks,
give me 1 minute on that.
We need 1 minute here, people. We'll have it here shortly for you guys. Just a wonderful little glitch as usual. But anyways, yeah. So I mean, I wanted to point out before we move on a little bit further from what we were just talking about too is, was anyone else laughing at Hoagie's shirt that says I'm single because I'm saving myself for Thor?
Yeah, that cracked me up when I read that. Happy Hogan was hilarious in this episode. Like, just in general, that, like, right from the start, you can tell he's just, like, so pissed off to be in that video, and then he's wearing that shirt. Like, they just, I feel like, I can't tell, like, what it seems like with all these episodes is that they like, it feels like they got into a groove, like the last couple episodes, where they feel like they can really dive into, like, whatever they're doing. The first couple felt like they were like kind of like pandering a little bit, like not in a bad way, but like they were giving people like, you know, the what they wanted a little bit. And then now they're doing a little more what they want to do. You know, it feels like the people are being really creative and having fun with it. Like the animators doing that stuff every time Happy Hogan like did the like the Iron Man like blast. What did he say? He said like something or like blam or something.
Yep.
Like it was just goofy, and like you could tell that it was fun for them, like making it, and you can tell that it was fun, like, and it was just fun watching. You know, it's good breaks in the chaos with those things. So yeah, Happy Hogan was a great addition. Great addition to it.
He totally is. That's why I love the fact that he's a part of the Spider-Man films. I love that they kind of made him like a centralized character for Peter in those films. I think that's a great thing because, I mean, Jon Favreau as Hoagie is hilarious, and he's so good at playing that character. And so I thought that it was really awesome that, you know, even though he hasn't directed anything since Iron Man 2, they still have kept him in the loop and kept him, you know, the character in the film still. And I think that's just great because I think he's really built a great character that I think a lot of people have fallen in love with and have just, you know, had a lot of fun with. But yeah, that scene where he's like using the blaster and he's making the sound with it. I mean, the fact that, you know, I think is it Sharon or is it AO? Yeah, it's Sharon. She's like, "Are you going pew pew when you're doing the laser thing?" That was just like absolutely hilarious.
Oh,
so
yeah,
funny.
It was great. And like Jon Favreau he's one of those people that like I talk about all the time because he's one of those people that like he created the MCU. Like his image of Iron Man jump started what we consider like the MCU, and that tone was really important when it started. And I don't think people give, like, at least casual fans don't necessarily know how much of an influence that his style of directing and writing and his style of humor really like became ingrained in what we understand as like the MCU style, you know. And obviously they've changed it and like developed it and all that stuff. I mean, that's bound to happen. But like when you look at like the core of what the MCU does, like emotionally takes these characters through their journey, like that was a lot of him. And he makes great movies, and obviously now he's running The Mandalorian and a lot of Star Wars stuff. So he's a great director and a great writer, and it's awesome. It's always awesome just to see him have fun on screen because he's a great actor too. And if you've never seen the movie Chef, go check it out. It's a great movie. Great movie.
Very good movie. I actually watched that on It was Voodoo. On Voodoo, they had it for free to watch, and I watched it on there. And yeah, that movie is awesome.
Yeah.
What
He's
was
really
the one? What was the one that he played in with Vince Vaughn when he first came out? Was it Swingers?
yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
I,
from the late '90s. Yeah,
I remember watching that when I was like 13 years old.
yeah. That movie's an interesting film. It's one of those ones that uh it's like kind of your first introduction to both these actors, but at the same time, it got so much press and like it was considered a huge successful film for its time. And I actually didn't watch it until it had been years, later since it came out. And I remember watching it and thinking, this is a good movie, but at the same time, I was like, you could tell these people were going to be huge actors. They were going to do something in Hollywood. You could just tell. And even like I've seen, as you see other movies by them, over the years and stuff like, you could just see the process of just them becoming more and more good at their craft. And that movie was a catalyst and a beginning to showing that craft that both of those actors had. So yeah, I definitely agree that Ferber, he's a really good
I think
actor.
he directed it too. I think he did. I think he directed it too. And honestly, even back then, I remember as a kid, I remember hearing that he was actually, even then, like when Swingers came out, he was known more for like his ability behind the camera than like on camera. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he was already on the way to like, like heading in that direction.
Yeah, it says he wrote it. He was the writer on it.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. Yeah.
There you go. Well, I mean, that's a poignant thing to write a movie like that. You know what I mean? That shows a lot of talent. And I mean, what I wanted to basically just comment about with Favreau is I feel like every director in the MCU, some of them fit a certain way with a film and some fit, better or more well in certain films than others. I feel like Favreau was perfectly matched to do Iron Man. Like he was the right director for the feel that they needed to give off with Iron Man. He directed Iron Man 2, didn't he too?
Yes.
Yeah, he did.
Directed the first two, yeah.
Yeah, and look what happened with Iron Man 3. It kind of sucked. You know what I mean? Like, but like to some extent, it was all right. But I mean, it was kind of convoluted. But I feel the same way with like the Russo brothers and Captain America. Like Captain America, the Winter Soldier, Civil War. I feel like the Russo brothers were just like the perfect fit to plug in for that franchise, for that character, for that story, that film. And again, I think that it's important to take note that not only does Marvel Studios dominate the cinema landscape completely and has for years or whatever, they're not just like getting lucky on stuff. Like they pick the right people to like direct and write these films and like cast these films and everything. Like they pick people who are really good at their jobs. Like you can say what you want about Marvel Comics right now these days. A lot of people poo-poo them and like don't like kind of the wokeness that like in the direction that the comics have gone in with Marvel nowadays and like the PC, stuff that in politics they've injected into the comics. But when it comes to Marvel Studios and the MCU, they over and over and over, they continue to prove that they're good at hiring the best fit for films as far as directors, writers. People become very loyal to Marvel Studios. Whatever Kevin Feige is doing, whatever voodoo he's working or whatever with people, they seem to want to come back and work with Marvel Studios. Yeah, I mean, like there's a real loyalty there that I think goes beyond just the financial aspect of like making money from Marvel Studios. I think there's like like just to throw in like a Shang-Chi thing, like, I wasn't too happy that they even included Ben Kingsley in the Shang-Chi film, but like, who knows? Maybe Ben Kingsley came to Kevin Feige and said, you know what? I want to be in this film. You know what I mean? Like at that point, what are you going to do? You know, like, of course you're going to have him come in. Like I told you the other night, Perry. I just think that, you know, bringing up Favreau, talking about Favreau, he definitely, Cyber, you're right. He plays Happy Hogan perfectly. Like, I don't know if anybody else, like, it's like nobody can play Black Panther, but like Chadwick Boseman, I'm sorry, but nobody can. And be as good as the Black Panther as Chadwick Boseman is. And I'm not saying, and you know, people, and they can do what they want with that role. I don't care. But I just don't think anybody can fill those shoes but Chadwick Boseman, and he's gone. So it's the same thing with Happy Hogan. They couldn't take like Jon Favreau out of that role and swap somebody else in there, and it wouldn't work for the same way that like Favreau does.
I agree. I very much agree. Yeah,
I wonder how much Favreau gets paid for being in those Spider-Man movies.
Who knows? I mean, he probably does it because he's got a good relationship with them. I think maybe that's another reason why why he does it. You know, because he just enjoys playing the character. You could just tell he enjoys playing that character, and so I think it's not probably a money issue or anything like that. He does it because he wants to be a part of the MCU. Because you know, he's the one really kind of that started the MCU with when he put out Iron Man and Iron Man 2. So I think that's a really good thing.
It's an industry, it's a business, so everybody has to get paid at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So
yeah, they get paid.
Like, it'd be interesting to know what they give him for his little role that he plays as Happy Hogan in the Spider-Man films. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes out pretty well.
Oh, I'm sure he does. I'm sure he does because he's, you know, he's very established in the MCU, so I'm sure he makes some good money. I noticed over the comments here we have somebody that's called the Kloss Show. I want to thank you for commenting tonight. He or she wrote a couple wonderful little comments here that we'd like to just talk about here for a second. He said he wrote Swingers, and then the favorite favorite episode, I'm guessing that's what he's talking about, is The Sopranos Top Tier. So I mean, yeah, I would agree with that most definitely. I don't know about you guys. Do you guys agree with that comment there? That one about The Sopranos?
That's Grayson. That's Grayson and Deja from the MMA podcast that like we're gonna collaborate with in the future or whatever. That's who he is. I'll tell you right now. This you better watch out for this Kloss guy because he's a dirty motherfucker. Pardon my French. I'll tell you right now. You gotta watch out for this guy.
And then, my spelling is horrible. It's all good. We all don't write that great, Mr. Kloss. So we're all good here. It's all good. But yeah, he's a funny
guy. He's a funny guy, Cyber. You're gonna enjoy meeting him.
I can already tell just by his comments. So awesome. Thank you for being our comments there. Thank you for watching, sir. And you have that promo already, Mr. Jeff?
Yes, I do.
All right, let's watch it, people, before we move on.
Follow me. Enter the multiverse of infinite possibilities. Reality is not a straight line. Every passing moment is a chance for a new offshoot, a new variation. In fact, there are more realities than you can possibly fathom. An infinite number of what-ifs. Where the stories you thought you knew are nothing like you remember. What if? Only on Disney Plus.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, what a promo. Oh,
just watching that little bit of promo, like, kind of got me going a little bit, man. Seeing Captain America as a zombie and everything, like, throwing down, like, with Winter Soldier, dude.
That scene was great.
He looked badass, and like, I thought he looked badass in the whole episode.
Oh yeah, definitely, most definitely, I agree. Because I mean, actually, that kind of goes on with where we're going with this episode. So we kind of established Bruce got in contact with the people that are survivors. They got together, so they start going on a mission, like I was saying, to find a cure for this virus. They basically encounter Barton. They encounter Falcon. They encounter a few other of the Avengers that are zombified. They have fight sequences with them. That's unfortunately where we lose Happy Hogan. Unfortunately, where Sharon Carter has to reuse the Iron Man thing on his face. And we continue on. They're in a train, and that's when we come across Zombie Cap, of course, and Becky and him have this really awesome battle. Sharon unfortunately gets turned by Cap, and then she basically eats Wasp whole, kind of. She goes into her mouth, and unfortunately, when she comes out after exploding out of her, she has a cut on her, though, which is basically turning her into a zombie. So we have a lot of casualties going on in those couple scenes, a lot of great action going on. And so basically then that's when Hope is like, I'm going to sacrifice myself for them. And then all of a sudden she turns gigantic to get them over to the compound that they're trying to get to. So what were your thoughts when all of a sudden she blasted through the top of the train? Because I wasn't expecting a giant man thing going on, but that ended up happening, and I just thought it was so freaking awesome. What were your guys' thoughts on all of a sudden that happening? Starting with you, Perry.
Yeah, that was it was a great scene because it was like, do trains run on gas? I don't know why I never thought of that, but like, I don't think they run on gas.
They don't.
So that part, I was like, wait a second. And I don't know if they were just saying that to like as like a metaphor for it just dying out on them. I think that's what they were doing, but like, I was like on my phone for like 2 seconds and they said that and I was like, wait a second. But once the train dies, they're obviously in front of that whole horde of zombies and they're like, how the hell are we going to do that? And then Hope is like, oh, the only way to get over, or the only way to get there is over. And she breaks through and she hands them over. And as she's like handing them over, she does the whole dramatic like fall, like the whole thing, the heroic sacrifice. And it's great. It's a great scene. You know, it's like her getting more heroism out of that character that we haven't seen a lot of. You know, we saw a little bit in Ant-Man, a lot more in Ant-Man and the Wasp, like a lot of more of that like badassery. And then now you see like the extent of what like she's capable of doing everything Ant-Man can. And I think that's a really important like moment. And it's proves that she is going to be just as capable when she inevitably joins the Avengers as Ant-Man. And now you're going to have these two characters that were in the original Avengers finally come back and be a part of the Avengers as the duo that they're supposed to be, you know? So I think that was like a cool moment to like put that key to get that train rolling.
Good point there. Yeah, very smart there, Perry.
I'm a genius. What can I say?
Yes.
But yeah, so like that, I thought it was great. I thought it was a good moment for the Wasp, and it definitely, it was like, and thematically, it's a very easy like thing for them to write in, but it also did a lot for the character. It was like an easy like, oh, we'll just have her like carry them over and have her sacrifice herself. But it meant more for the character in that regard too. So it was great. It was great.
Nice. Yeah, I would agree. How about you, Jeff? What did you think?
Well, it's kind of the same thing that Perry was saying. You know, like I love the part with the whole aspect of it being Hope that was the character that got hurt, you know, and you know, like I love that character. I love Hope. You know, and I feel like it was really fun seeing her be a part of the team. And you know, like Perry was saying, it was really cool seeing her enlarge herself and everything and whatnot, because at that point, I honestly think she got bigger than I ever saw Ant-Man ever get, you know, like at that point, you know what I mean? So like, you know, she like really got big there. And she was so dutiful about wanting to like make something, worth her life, like even if she was going to die. It was very moving. It was one of the more moving, like, aspects that kind of tugged at my heartstrings a little bit in the episode. And I thought it was really, really neat, again, that like Hawkeye pops up and he starts shooting arrows into people and stuff like that, like all accurately, even though he's a zombie still. Like, I'm like, that just like blew me away. Falcon flying around, like, like fighting and everything, like with his wings and everything as a zombie. Like, it was really, really, really cool. Like, it was really fun to see. And seeing Black Panther laying there, like on that cot underneath the base and whatnot. Have we not gotten to that far yet? Or okay,
we're just getting to there.
Okay,
we're just getting to there.
Okay, but no, I thought it was like a really valiant thing what like Hope eventually decided to do with the team and everything. It was very Avengers-like to do that, like. And again, there was this shared sense among everybody that like they were willing to sacrifice their lives if they had to like achieve their goals. Yet they all seemed very like chill about it, like, cracking jokes and everything, which is like, that's very Marvel-esque. So yeah, that's it.
Very much so. Very much so. We have another comment from the Clash Show. He says, "What if Aunt May gets blasted instead of Uncle Ben goes on an old man rampage?" Which actually is kind of funny because I actually just recently read that comic book and about that what if scenario, and that is actually a really cool like what if episode. I think it would have been a really cool one if they did it on the show. I'm not sure if they're going to or not, but if they do, that'll be really awesome. But I thought that was a really cool concept. Like, what if it was an Uncle Ben that died? It was Aunt May that died. How would that change Peter's dynamic? How would that change his path as Spider-Man and everything? And I think that makes a huge impact. And so I think that's a really good little comment there, the Clash Show, because I think that's a episode they should eventually do if they don't do it in this season, but in season 2. I think that would be a really cool episode to go with. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Perry, starting with you.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, with this episode, they showed that they can be pretty violent and show like the gore a little bit, and so I think that I don't think that that's too far fetched, and I think it'd be interesting if that happened, and then they also added in like maybe the Punisher joins, and maybe he joins forces with the Punisher to like go on this rampage of killing like the criminals and all that stuff. That'd be
Dude,
interesting.
if Punisher had been a part of that team in that episode, that would have been freaking like sick.
Yeah, that would have been really cool. But I think they have to introduce him in live action first before they introduce him.
Let's face it, if you add Punisher to any equation, it's a good situation.
Yeah. True.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. So moving on. So Hope has now gotten them across to that courtyard and, sacrificed herself and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, who pops up? None other than Vision. All of a sudden, Vision's a part of this. And I was like, holy crap, Vision. I'm like, this is awesome. And so we get Vision, and he talks about how he is supposed to come up a way of curing people with the Mind Stone. And so they go into the base, and they're talking and stuff like that. And that's when we all of a sudden find that Paul Rudd, a.k.a. Ant-Man, is still alive in just a head. So when he pops up in just a head, I started cracking up so hard. I'm like, are you kidding me? What is this, like the man with 2 heads or something going on here? And so like he's like, pardon me, and he like starts saying all these head jokes. I started cracking up so hard at this. So my question for you guys is, what did you think about all of a sudden that Paul Rudd's character, Ant-Man, popping up there being just a head and those puns? What were your guys' thoughts? So starting with you, Perry.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, it's like the perfect Paul Rudd like moment of him just being himself in that character. He's known as like when he does like talk shows and stuff as being like telling dad jokes and like being that guy. So it's perfect for him to like use that. And it was fun. It was another moment of like breaking the tension with like that humor, and he does it for the rest of the episode. So it's like it's just one of those things where it was another like moment of it being like a break in the chaos, which was good.
Completely agree there. Yeah, most definitely. How about you, Jeff? What did you think about the Paul Rudd, aka Ant-Man head thing?
Well, the first thing I thought of was an episode of Family Guy where Ted Williams is on the show and he's just a head in like a globe or whatever with water, and like he goes to prison and he's like, oh man, this is the exact situation I didn't want to be in, just being a head, like with his cellmate or whatever, like in the jail, like, and that's what I thought of, which is pretty funny. That's a pretty funny Family Guy episode. Basically, I thought it was funny. I mean, it was typical Ant-Man, like, you know, I mean, it was kind of off the wall, like it was kind of stupid in a way, but like there's nothing wrong with being kind of stupid sometimes. And you know, I mean, I felt like you know, like I was surprised that Vision was still alive. Like it didn't occur to me that Vision would still be around, but it kind of makes sense if you think about it. And it occurred to me before it actually happened that, of course, like Vision wouldn't be able to let Wanda die. You know what I mean? Like he just never would.
Very true. Very true. I totally agree there. So, like, so after that, then we had basically, Bucky decides he's going to go look for a transportation. And, Vision kind of gives a weird look and, says something kind of weird. And you're kind of like, there's something going on here with Vision. But so as Bucky goes and searches, that's when all of a sudden he comes on and, like, all of a sudden we get introduced to T'Challa, aka Black Panther, and he is missing a leg. So when that all of a sudden popped up, I was like, holy crap, they're going really dark here with this. They have T'Challa, who not only is played by still Chadwick Boseman, he still did the voiceover for this episode. They have him have one leg, and I was kind of like, ooh, he just died from cancer, and they have him amputated. This is, kind of creepy in a sense a way, but at the same time you're like, oh, holy crap, he's still alive, but he's missing a leg. And I was just like, holy crap. So what were your guys' thoughts on all of a sudden Black Panther popping up? Starting with you, Perry.
Yeah, that it was it was great that we got to see him again and have Chadwick Boseman come back and do like that. He was able to do the voice again.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it's just another moment of like Black Panther just having that presence that no other character has, even in animation.
I think we all had that, Perry. I think we all got that vibe, like during the episode in a way, you know, we all in our own way, like kind of got that, you know, like, wow, it's great to see Chadwick Boseman again. You know what I mean? It's really, you know, like, it's very powerful.
Yeah. And he even has that moment like later in the episode on the ship where he talks about how not all those are gone, like not all those who are like when your death isn't the last part, like they're like everybody's still with you and all that stuff. And that was where I was like, oh my God, like like they really did something there, you know, they were really like he was it's like he was it felt like they knew, and he said that line knowing that it would like kind of comfort his fans in the future, and that kind of like idea was really like it kind of like brings you out of it, but like keeps you in it, you know. But yeah, it was like I said, it was great to like have Black Panther again in there and be able to have that character in a story again.
Yeah, that was really cool. How about you, Jeff? What did you think about all of a sudden when T'Challa popped up?
I was surprised, and I didn't expect to see T'Challa. I didn't expect to see Black Panther at all. And when I saw his leg was missing, obviously the first connection I made was like, he's cutting him up and feeding him to like the zombies or whatever, you know, because I wasn't sure what the hell was going on at that point down there. Like I knew something wasn't right, you know, obviously something was not right. I was really kind of like riveted, like trying to figure out like what the hell was going on with Vision, like where things were going with this whole situation, like what direction the story was going in. And then like seeing Black Panther was awesome. Having him be a part of the show, even though he was wounded, was awesome. But what really got in my head was imagining Scarlet Witch as a zombie, like with all her power and like powers and everything, like how crazy that could be.
Most definitely, yeah. That's, you know, that's all of a sudden we find out. We also see that you find that Scarlet Witch is down there too after coming across T'Challa himself. And, you know, basically they go back up and start talking to Vision again. And Vision's like, yeah, I'm doing this and that and stuff like that, trying to keep her alive because she's the love of my life, this kind of thing. And then kind of just escalates from there. And she actually breaks free. And then they have kind of like an all-out war almost with her. And, you know, that's when we, you know, get kind of just this tremendous, you know, Bucky, you know, sacrifices himself. And then, you know, the Hulk all of a sudden finally comes out of his shell again, you know, starts beating up the zombies and, you know, fighting Wanda so that she's distracted, you know, to allow them to get away. And so as we keep going on, we got this awesome battle going on. It's like that Hulk, you know, finally reemerges, and he hasn't, you know, had that same defeat he had, you know, twice, like in the regular movies that we've seen. He only had the one, I guess, with Thanos, because that's where, you know, he ends up getting thrown down at the beginning of the episode because he's been beaten by Thanos. And so, you know, basically they have that go on. They are trying to get away, and then the episode kind of ends weirdly because it ends up they're going to Wakanda. Black Panther, you know, Paul Rudd's character, and, you know, Spider-Man, the only three that have survived. And all of a sudden you get a zombified Thanos. Holy crap. I was like, oh, I couldn't believe it. So to end this episode, one last question before we move on to another little segment to round out our show. What were your thoughts on seeing zombie Thanos? What were your guys' thoughts? So starting with you, Perry.
Yeah, that was so I was kind of like where I noticed that obviously that the episode was starting to feel like it was ending, and I was like, it felt like a resolution, but it also, like, all these episodes don't feel like there's like an actual resolution, and like you get this sense that like things will continue. Like you get the sense that you're just watching this like snippet of this story, you know, because we get our version of the MCU and the universe that we're watching it kind of thing. We've seen the beginning and end of every story that they're telling, but with these ones, we're just seeing like a snippet of it, you know? So seeing that kind of like this part of the story play out, and then the Watcher coming in and talking about like the implication of what it means for the rest of the universe, like the universe in this version of it, and then Thanos comes up and he's a zombie, and I'm like, okay, like, are we gonna get a part 2 to this? Like, can we get a little like
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it makes it interesting too, because like we said, like, yeah, a lot of these Avengers, not only like, even if they did get the cure and they cured everybody, half of the Avengers team like got beheaded or like exploded or like you know, like they're dead. Like they're not just zombies, they're dead.
Yeah.
So, like Captain America got chopped in half. Like I don't think
Iron Man lost his head.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, so I think that part of it would have been really interesting to see how after a zombie apocalypse they recover from that and then come back and like have to fight Thanos again, because that would be like, how do you plan on doing that this time?
Yeah, most definitely. How about you, Jeff? What did you think about all of a sudden the zombie Thanos popping up?
Well, I mean, I'm trying to imagine how it would work, like in this universe, like with these type of zombies that, like, I mean, why would a zombie Thanos still want to like get the Infinity Stones? You know what I mean? Like that doesn't make any sense to me. That's like way too like much intellectual activity for a zombie to be like, doing. Like as a zombie, don't you just basically want to like eat whatever like random person or like being that like pops up in front of you? I mean, like you're not planning anything out like large scale or whatever. So like, I mean, he wouldn't be like still wanting to kill half the population or anything like that. I wouldn't think that wouldn't override his zombie self or like zombie, like, desires or whatever. But again, my take on it was just, again, that like, I don't know. We'll see what happens with the rest of What If. But I think this might be, for me, probably what I think is going to end up being the one episode that totally sells me on the concept that they could do this live action one time in a film or whatever, and it would be massive. It would be massive, and it would be fun too. It would be really, really, really different. And like, let's be honest here. At this point, it's becoming very clear that Kevin Feige wants to take chances. Like, they want to do different stuff and like try different shit and see what sticks and what doesn't. Like, and they've created the kind of wiggle room where they can do that, and they can afford to swing and miss. And like, this is a sure thing. Like, don't get me wrong, guys. You both know there's a lot of sure things in the MCU and the Marvel universe. Like, there's more sure things than there are like, duds. You know what I mean? Like, to work with, like, in the MCU. But this like whole concept, I mean, of course you could do anything with a What If episode, like movie. You know what I mean? You could go any direction. But I think if you were going to do it and do it right, you would have to have the Avengers involved in this type, in some way, kind of like the way they did in this episode. And I feel like there's people out there who really believe that Kevin Feige and Marvel want to eventually tie this What If series into like the live action in some way. Maybe it's going to be on a small scale. Maybe it's going to be on a larger scale. We'll see what happens. But I'm telling you right now, I mean, I don't see how you lose if you decided to do a live action, Avengers zombies, like 2.5 hour movie with like this kind of premise. I mean, it would be huge.
Totally agree.
That'd be $1 billion movie for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. I agree there. Like, you would definitely have $1 billion movie on hand. I think that would be a huge success.
It would be dramatic as hell too, because people would be dying left and right and everything. You know what I mean? Like, people would be crying.
Yep. 100%. Totally agree there. I mean, it'd be interesting just to see, how they could fit it into the MCU timeline too. Like, with, like, I guess that's where the multiverse could come in, where they say, oh, this is like an offshoot of the multiverse that could have happened. So, I mean, with the multiverse becoming a huge part of the MCU now, I mean, that is a very big possibility that they could end up doing that. So you never know.
Yeah, why not, Cyber? Like, I mean, as like just doing it as like a special project in like a Marvel Studios special project, a special feature, doing something different, a one-off thing that's only going to happen. This is the only time it's ever going to happen. We're going to do a What If full-scale movie, like it could be the zombie, deal or whatever, and I'm telling you, people, I mean, listen, it's like we talked about before, Cyber. If you got the Avengers and just had them on video washing their hair, I would watch that shit and enjoy it.
Yep. Definitely. I would too. I definitely would too. So, that is it for this episode of What If, guys. So, thank you for listening to us talk about it. So, me and Mr. Jeff Sabota talked about earlier, and my other cohort, Mr. Perry, we are going to do a little segment just to kind of segue away from the MCU a little bit here, and talk about some reviews on the upcoming Dune movie. So we're going to get right into that and kind of go over that. So, Jeff, you have some awesome comments for us, sir.
I do. And let me just go ahead and set the premise that I am like the big, huge Dune fan, like out of the group here, like out of the team. But I know for a fact that Perry does know about Dune pretty well. And Cyber, you're like day by day, like you're learning more and more about Dune, you know, like I got to give Cyber credit. Like he's actually a nice enough guy that when I throw up Dune videos on Rizzle and stuff like that, he watches them and enjoys them, which is great. You tell me, Cyber, that guy that makes those videos is really good, isn't he?
Oh, he's so good. I mean, he's like a brother to me. So, and he like, I watch his stuff on the regular because he's just so awesome. And he knows all he knows about Dune. So I'm pretty impressed by him, I think.
The Dune universe is very interesting. So basically, okay, this is off of Rotten Tomatoes. This is what we have to start with as far as these Dune reviews. Okay, from Philip D. Semyon, Time Out, top critic. Okay, technically it doesn't have an ending, and not everyone will get along with the levels of patience Villanueva demands of his audience, but those who do will be rewarded with precise storytelling, visual fireworks, and some god-level world building. I love to hear that. I love world building. Like, the more the better. You know? I don't know about you guys, but if that's the kind of movie it's going to be, that's my shit.
It's definitely a really positive review. I mean, Dune is such a huge concept anyways, because
Yes.
I mean, since its inception, from when the first book was released, and then of course in the 80s we got the first film version of it, a little bit later on, about 20 years later, we got a TV version of it. And so this is like the third time we're seeing a reiteration of the film coming out. And so, I mean, that world building comment is a really interesting comment because, it really is a gigantic world to talk about. So, I mean, all the different aspects of what's going on in the Dune world, what is involved with what the people are going through, what they have to do in order to get to that climax of what they're looking for, searching for, that is a world building type of deal. So, I mean, the fact that this person mentioned that it's a world building film, that's a good sign that there's a lot of good story to this film and that they really put a lot of effort into bringing the Dune world to the big screen again. Maybe give us something different that elaborates more on what they didn't talk about in the other versions and give us an even more better film.
I think the technology and the special effects and everything just wasn't there back in the 80s for them to be able to pull off Dune in like a realistic way that was believable to watch. Like if you watch some of like that 80s Dune one, some of the CGI and like the special effects are horrible. Like, they're stupid as hell. Like they look really dumb. Now, again, this is like 1980 or whatever, but I feel like essentially Villeneuve is a great director. I mean, everything he's done has been really great. He's really good at the whole world building concept. And just think about it. Dune is so massive that all these two movies are going to end up being is just covering the first novel of Dune. There's 6 novels that cover like the entire story of Dune from start to finish. And we're talking about like, you want to talk about world building on a grand scale. We're talking about like passages of time throughout the 6 novels where we're dealing with like 10,000, 15,000 years passing by. Okay. So from David Jenkins, Little White Lies, top critic. In the main, it's a stately film, exacting and elliptical, more in a slow release tradition of David Lean than the candy-coated insta-high of the MCU. That's a little bit like too highbrow for me. Stephanie Zacharek, Time Magazine. Dune is sluggish in places my eyes glazed over during 1 or 2 or maybe 3 of the battle scenes, but Villeneuve's conviction counts for a lot. I I don't agree with this already. I can tell you right now from the premise. Clarisse Loray, independent from the UK, top critic. The casting choice is poor. It's a small but noticeable chip in the paint when it comes to Dune, a work that's otherwise of such intimidating grandeur that it's hard to believe it even exists in the first place. Well, that's a hell of a freaking review right there, because she flipped the script on that one. It starts off with like the cast sucks to like this movie is like legendary.
Yeah, that's kind of strange and that at the same time interesting, like their thought process on the
Yeah.
film. You
The
know what I mean?
casting choice is poor. It's a
Yeah.
small but noticeable chip in the paint when it comes to Dune, a work that's otherwise of such intimidating grandeur that it's hard to believe it even exists in the first place. Like that they even made it.
Yeah, like it's I think with a lot of that, I think it just comes off like she's just basically saying, yeah, some of the characters seem like they don't necessarily fit with who's playing them, but the story itself is such a big scale that it doesn't matter.
Yes. And the characters are powerful.
Right.
The individual characters are very powerful. It's a very powerful, very emotional, very dramatic, very graphic and violent story. That deals with religion and deals with drug use and deals with, alien creatures like sandworms and shit. I don't care, man. Like, if when you watch those Dune trailers and you see the sandworm in the Dune trailer, it's ridiculous. I mean, isn't just the concept of the sandworms like interesting to you guys?
Yeah, it's a really cool, like, and what's funny too is it reminds me of like this creature in Star Wars, but the creature from Star Wars was probably like modeled after the description in the books by Frank Herbert, because that was written in like 54 or 64 or something.
Yeah.
And so it's just like it's really interesting to see those parallels, and then being like, oh, that's it from an outside perspective. It kind of looks like Dune's ripping off like the Star Wars and making it more dramatic and gritty and all this shit. But in reality, Dune came before most.
It's the opposite.
Yeah. Yep. And although like a lot of Star Wars is like different versions of like the Seven Samurai, like the walk of the hero kind of thing, a lot of the aesthetic was taken from Flash Gordon and Dune. Like, so you get these interesting like back and forth between these two radically different sci-fi adventures, and so it'll be really cool to see like Dune come to fruition and get that kind of attention that it deserves.
Dune is so impactful on the sci-fi landscape overall that I feel like I don't think that there's a sci-fi movie that's been made in the last like 50 years that wasn't influenced in some way by Dune. I mean, I can tell you one thing. I already I ordered my book, my first Dune book. It's on the way. I ordered it from a used books online website that I go on to all the time. And I'm really looking forward to reading it, because everybody that I know who's read it, they're really passionate about it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm passionate about it. I never read one of the books. I can only imagine what it's like to actually put the time in and read one of these damn things and then really get into it. I don't know about you guys, but in my experience, usually overall, the books are usually always better than the movies that are made out of the books.
Yeah, 9 times out of 10.
I mean, it's rare that it's the opposite. It's very rare. There are times when it's happened, but I can tell you, like one that I can think of right off the bat that's a good example would be The Lincoln Lawyer with Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, yep.
Really, really, really good book. The movie was not that great. It was not all that great, I'll be honest with you. But no, like as far as Doom goes, back to the reviews. Steve Pond, the Rap top critic, a formidable cinematic accomplishment, a giant mood piece that can be exhilarating, in his dark beauty. Diego Garcia, Cinemania, Spain, always moving between extremes. Dune plays to make us oscillate between the hypnosis of its visions and the tachycardia of its action scenes. What the hell does that mean? I have no idea what tachycardia is.
Tachycardia, really, people?
Yeah, I don't know anything about that. But
tachycardia is
it's
a
like
medical term.
Yeah, it's an exhilarating. It's something that causes your heartbeat to increase.
Okay, Dune, first reviews from Rotten Tomatoes. The breathtaking adaptation fans have been waiting for. Critics say Denis Villeneuve's new take on Frank Herbert's classic novel is a nuanced, well-acted feast for the eyes and ears, even if it only leaves viewers wanting more. So...
Can't ask for more than that.
No.
Not at all.
Eric Eisenberg, Cinema Blend. Denis Villeneuve's movie is a film interpretation that fans have been waiting to see for decades. Ben Travis, Empire Magazine. For science fiction devotees, especially those who have long worshipped Frank Herbert's dense tome, Villeneuve's Dune is the adaptation you have always dreamed of. Jimmy O, Joe Blow's Movie Emporium. It honors the source material in the most satisfying way possible. Dune 2021 is a modern-day work of art. Enough said. I don't think there's really much else to put out there. If you guys have any last remarks on this whole Dune, thing, they're actually believe it or not, there's a guy on the Podcast of Champions that I record with on the weekends and stuff. He's in the Netherlands, and Dune comes out next week for them.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
wow, that's
next week. Isn't that weird?
That's almost. Well, no, not really, because a lot of the times Europe gets the movies before we do. So it's not shocking. Yeah, we're always the last to get films released versus any other country. A lot of them, sometimes we'll get it, and then one other country that hasn't gotten it already will get it. But majority of the time, most movies come out over in Europe before they come out here. So,
well, I feel like when it boils down to it, the trailers were very important with Dune in terms of roping people in that don't know anything about Dune. That's their first impression or their first taste of the Dune universe. And I could have played the Dune trailer. It's really good. I really enjoy it. I know you guys have seen it too. It is a really good trailer. It's very powerful. The movie looks gigantic. It looks huge. But it's going to boil down to how well they've promoted it and, how effective those trailers ended up being when it comes to the younger audience, because you got to figure it's the same audience that went to see Shang-Chi for the most part that they're going to be relying on to go see Dune.
Yep. Completely agree. They're
going to try to ride that wave that people are going to see movies right now.
Well, that actually segues really easily, and I'll set this up for you, Cyber. This segues very nicely into our final segment, because Perry and I and Cyber and I were both talking personally about this in the last couple of days. The fact that I think that the reason that they decided to release Venom, Let There Be Carnage early is because of Shang-Chi.
I would agree. Most definitely, yes. So our final segment tonight, folks, it will be going to show you the trailer, the second trailer of Venom, Let There Be Carnage. And we're going to discuss it a little bit for you guys. And then that's how we'll close the show for you guys tonight. This movie, I've been waiting for it since Venom 1 came out because I absolutely loved Venom. It was such an amazing film. So this one looks just as good. It's going to be interesting to see what Andy Serkis, as a director, changes it up from the first film that we got from the awesome director, Scott Rubin. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. But this trailer is awesome. So we're going to put it up for you guys. Mr. Jeff.
I've got two trailers, actually, if that's okay with you guys. I've got the first one and I've got the second one.
Awesome. Well,
I ever wanted in this world is carnage.
Lady here. We should be out there snacking on bad guys. I am a predator. I need to be free.
You have got to get control of your aggression, or you will get hauled off into Area 51. You live in my body. You live by my rules.
I'm sorry. I don't know what came over me. Please let me fix it so I can play it again. You are a loser.
Eddie Brock, I want to give you my story. People love serial killers.
Please, why me?
What's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine. I have tasted blood before, and that is not it. All I ever wanted in this world is carnage. I'm not a crazy man. I am a vengeful one.
Oh, shit!
Whoa, where you going?
That is a red one!
You need to come out right now. I will let you eat everybody!
Promise!
I promise!
Oh, yeah!
Eddie, you feel like home to me. Like family.
Oh, wow.
You could just say, I'm happy for you.
That was going to be us!
I am happy for you.
No!
God, I'm so sorry.
Not sorry!
This dude needs some serious couples counseling.
I say either, you say either, I say neither, and I say neither, neither. Let's call the whole thing off. Ta-da! Catch up.
Excuse me?
Yummy.
Good evening, Eddie.
Hey, Mrs. Chen.
Good evening, Venom.
Function hall, Mrs. Chen.
He says hi.
One is the loneliest number that you'll ever do.
I've been thinking about you, Eddie.
Two can be as bad as one. It's the loneliest number.
Because you and I are the same. Every decision we ever make, who do we leave behind? And how do we leave them? Waiting in the darkness for the rescuer who never comes. Welcome back, Eddie Brock. It's been a long time. Miss you so much. Soon come chaos. Chaos soon come.
Is the loneliest number that you'll ever do.
The chocolate delivery hasn't arrived yet.
No!
We had a deal.
What's gonna happen? You gonna stop protecting me?
I am happy to eat, Mrs. Chen.
No, you cannot eat, Mrs. Chen.
What?
Nothing?
Woo! Oh my god. This movie looks like it's gonna be absolutely amazing, as the first one was. Freaking Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock has been a really great, you know, production. I think he's amazing as the character. I wasn't too sure about him until I saw the first one, and then the performance he did in the first one, I was just really impressed with him. And so I'm waiting to see what he brings again to this table, because he just was like so awesome in the first film. And just the whole, I love the dynamic of how they brought him and Venom together in the film, and just like how they worked together. And this movie, the second one, looks like it's just going to be just as good, and even better, with getting introduction to Carnage too as well. And it's interesting concept that they're bringing into it, to where Cletus basically becomes Carnage by biting Eddie, who somehow, I guess, when he bit him and got his blood, apparently some of the symbiote from Venom went into him, and that's what creates him into Carnage. It looks like that's my take on what it's going to be going by. So this definitely looks great. What did you think, Perry?
Yeah, so I liked the first one. I'm not as high on it as you are. I think that Tom Hardy did a great job, and the movie to me was like fun, and I had a good time watching it. And so I am excited for the second one, because I thought the first one was like a fun, exciting movie. It felt like what it was supposed to be. It's Venom like becoming the main character, which we haven't seen in live action, obviously, in a good way. And so that portion of it is fun, and the dynamic that they're setting up for the second one, where you're walking into the more of the relationship rather than them like meeting, and like becoming one thing. It's like now it's like the Odd Couple sort of situation, which is really it's gonna be fun having that dynamic. And so yeah, with Carnage being added in, it opens up a really crazy door of whether or not these characters are going to be integrated into the MCU at some point, which would be even crazier, because watching Spider-Man and Venom have to defeat like Carnage and other symbiotes would be a lot of fun, especially since Tom Hardy is such a phenomenal actor and he does really well this role. And so I'm excited for this. Even if for me it's more of the fun, like I don't, with a lot of people, they went into Venom expecting like something with like how the MCU does things, and it's like that's not what this is. Like that's not what it's supposed to be. That's not what it's trying to be. It's very much trying to be its own thing, and I think it did a really good job being its own thing. So now with the second one, it's great that they are making a second one, because I feel like, especially when you're looking at like Morbius, which is a similar kind of situation, where they're taking a character that is not a extremely popular character in a mainstream way. And that one, I'm not sold on that one, but it'll be fun. I'm just going into this one, just doing the same thing I did with the first one, just gonna enjoy it for what it is, as like a Venom action movie with Tom Hardy being a crazy guy with two personalities, it seems, and it'll be good. I think it's going to be good. Andy Serkis is Andy Serkis, and he's a great actor. He's done well with writing. He's done pretty well with directing. So I'm excited to see what he does with this one, and especially adding Woody Harrelson in there. Like Woody Harrelson's obviously the OG legend kind of thing. So I think that'll be great. And like I said, like people trying to say, oh, it's not as good as the MCU. It's like, well, it's not trying to be the MCU. It's trying to be its own thing, which it's doing well being its own thing, because it's very distinctively different. And so for that, I like it, because it's still Marvel, but it's not the Marvel that we get all the time. You know, it's a different type of Marvel, and that's what makes it fun to do. You know, that's what makes it fun to watch, and it's like indulge in like these different characters that don't get the same kind of spotlight. So, yeah, I think the trailers set that tone, and I think that I'm excited for it. Like I said, the first one I've watched a few times and I enjoy it every time I watch it, and I'm not like crazy into it as much as like some people are, or as you are, Cyber. Like, you really like it and I really liked it. But I'm just excited to enjoy it. Like, that's where I'm at. I'm just excited to enjoy it, you know?
Yep. I understand. I completely agree. How about you, Jeff?
Well, I'm going to completely contrast you, Perry, and this is why I'm glad to have you back, because it's nice to be able to bounce off of you, like in our dialogue here in our discussion. Okay, first of all, Perry, don't think for 1 second that everybody in the whole industry wants to be like Marvel Studios. They do. They want to do things just like Marvel Studios. They want the same success and the same, like they see what Marvel Studios is doing.
Well, success is different than the style. I'm talking about like the style.
It's the gold standard. What Marvel Studios is doing is like it's like record setting everything they touch. You know what I mean? So like at that point, I think I think that I get where you're coming from. I do. Like, of course they had to go in a different direction, because again, it's not a part of the MCU. So like it's a part of what they call the what is it? The Sony Spider-Man universe. I think that's what they want it to be called now, which is actually not so bad to say, but
SPMU.
They're limited. Like, they're limited in what they can do and what they can't do. And let's be honest here. We all know, you don't have to be a comic book fan to know this. All right. I'll tell you right now, when I was a kid, I had like 5 different Spider-Man comic books at one time. Like, I had 5 subscriptions to 5 different Spider-Man comic books. That's how popular Spider-Man was. And like, I watched and read all of the Venom, Carnage stuff and everything as a kid and whatnot. And I don't care what they do with this movie. There's no way it can be as good as it would be if they had Spider-Man involved. You know what I'm saying? It's that simple. Like, Spider-Man makes things better, just like the Punisher. Throwing the Punisher into any equation, for me anyway, at least as a fan, makes shit better. Like, I like the Punisher. But Spider-Man, everybody loves Spider-Man. I mean, look at the friggin' record-setting trailer views on YouTube for the Spider-Man 3 trailer. Like, more than Endgame, more than Infinity War. Like, come on, man. Like, I love Spider-Man, but I'm not like a freaking fanboy for Spider-Man. But there's a lot of damn people out there that love the crap out of Spider-Man. Like, he's like, you know, Cyber, you know how addicted I am to watching those trailer reaction videos all the time and everything? I watch those videos all the time, and you look at people's faces during like the Infinity War trailers and everything, and the biggest like smiles and like the most excitement that you saw from everybody in the reactions is when you see Peter Parker, Spider-Man. Like, that's it. Like, they're like, they're freaking the hell out and everything, you know? They're like excited for Captain America. They're excited for Iron Man. But then Spider-Man pops up and they're like, oh man, like their arms are moving their arms and everything. So I'm just saying, like, I guess where I'm going with this is just that I'm skeptical about the direction that Sony is going with this whole Spider-Man universe and everything. I'm not trying to say that I think that they should have just like given Spider-Man back to friggin' like Marvel Studios and Disney or something like that and been like, here you go, you guys can make better movies with like these characters than we can, so we're just gonna give this to you. You know, like, hell no, of course not. But I do think there's a reality where, depending on again, who Sony hires to direct the films, to cast the films, to write these stories and everything and whatnot, I think that basically what they have to work with, the Spider-Man universe, those characters, those villains, those, you know, like allies like Morbius that fit into that Spider-Man collective or whatever that they have to work with, they're limited. And you know, I'm really like sick. I'm kind of like a little bit like over like tired of like them just not telling us what the hell they're gonna do. Sony and like Marvel, like or whatever, you know. I don't know how the negotiations are now. I don't know if it's Sony versus Disney or still Sony and Marvel or whatever. But did they not like start working on like another sharing agreement for Tom Holland like last year or something like that? And then I never heard anything about it again.
We had talked about that.
Yeah,
I mean,
go ahead, Cyber.
Basically, from what I read, what I've seen, is that they had been talking again, like shortly before the third Spider-Man was supposed to come out. The contract that was with Tom Holland was going to end, but they were already in talks for another negotiation for another set of films.
Yeah,
and from my understanding, where the direction that they were going and what they were saying in all the articles I have seen is that eventually what they want to do is that they want to take the Tom Holland Spider-Man that Marvel has established, put it into their Sonyverse films to interconnect the MCU with their MCU version. And so eventually Venom will pop up, eventually Morbius will pop up. That's why in Morbius we end up seeing Michael Keaton's Vulture character, because they have actually, from my understanding, they said they've already came to another agreement, that they have already processed it, but they haven't officially stated what exactly it was.
So you think it was all planned already, Cyber? You think that like the reason why we saw the Vulture in the Morbius trailer is because they've already worked something out? I gotta let my dog out real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Yeah, I think with this stuff, to me, I don't get hung up on like throwing like characters from the MCU in there. Like, I feel like that, I don't know. I don't set myself up for that expectation anytime soon in the grand scheme of it. Like, I'm always like in my mind going, okay, it'd be cool if like these connect in the future, but the way that I think they do it is more important than doing it like sooner rather than later, just because of like people saying, oh, we need Spider-Man in here because it's going to make a lot of money on this movie. It's like, yeah, but like short term, long term, it doesn't.
Perry, do you think that they will? Do you think we'll see Venom and Carnage, or like Venom and Morbius at the end in cameos on in Spider-Man 3?
No, I wouldn't think so. I mean, it's possible, but I wouldn't. I don't know what the point would be. You know, like the thing is they've already set up like all these things that are happening in like the Venom universe. Like the last movie, Morbius is going to have its own thing going on. Like there hasn't been any connective tissue, so they would have to do a lot of backtracking, and maybe in a multiverse situation they can explain it. But I don't see that happening this soon. I could be wrong, obviously. I don't think that it's gonna happen, especially when they were directing and writing these movies. They didn't have the deal written in stone. You know, maybe the Vulture in Morbius was with the last deal. You know, because it was supposed to come out earlier. That maybe that was part of the last deal, and because that trailer came out before the third Spider-Man was even like said, okay, this is when it's going to come out. That, like, even if you're looking at pre-COVID situations where they announced dates, the Morbius trailer came out before that even happened. So in my mind, that was part of like the last deal, is getting the Vulture in there to kind of tease things. And then they had the whole dispute and back and forth about where Spider-Man was going to land and if they could come to an agreement, and the whole discussion on whether or not that was real or not, or if that was just for press and to get attention towards it, and that both of these companies look like they're in it for the fans and that they really wanted to work this out for the fans, like the whole 9 yards. You can get into like a whole thing about that. But
well, hold on. Let me ask you a question then, and you too, Cyber. Do you think it's a possibility that there actually could be something worked out between Sony and Marvel Studios where like both sides come to the agreement that the best thing for the fans would be to put something together where Venom it becomes a part of the MCU and so does Morbius, and like Spider-Man crosses over into the Sonyverse and everything, so that we can actually get that Venom Spider-Man team up versus Carnage like the comic books have, you know, that whole premise where like, you know, like, I mean, Venom can't beat Carnage in the comics by himself. It's with Spider-Man that he's able to actually like, you know, fight back against Carnage. And then overall, it took the Avengers to like actually like catch Carnage and like put him away. You know what I mean? So do you think it's possible that like that I could see Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios being like, you know what, we'll give up a couple $100 million to make this work for the fans? Or do you think
I mean, honestly,
or do you think the money is just more important?
in all honesty, when they were negotiating back in 2019 after Spider-Man Far From Home came out, they already had put into the process Spider-Man 3. They had already had a plan already to make it, because when they made the deal with Tom Holland for 3 films, they already had what they were going to do. Morbius, now the trailer came out in late 2019, so right before COVID hit. And so Morbius was supposed to come out, you know, in June of 2020, and then it ended up getting pushed several times now not coming out till January of next year. Now, Morbius was actually filmed in 2019. So when those negotiations were all taken in and Michael Keaton was approached to play the Vulture again, that whole connection with the MCU was their primary purpose of making Morbius. Morbius is to connect the MCU and the Sonyverse together. They said that in all their press junket, like when they were making negotiations and all that kind of stuff. They stated that. That's the reason why, because like after the trailer came out, everyone kept asking why the hell is, you know, the Vulture in the Morbius trailer? Why is Michael Keaton in it? And so Sony came out with a statement stating that that was their plan of connecting the MCU to the Sonyverse. Yes, Jeff.
Tyrese came out, remember? Like 3 times or 2 times, Tyrese Gibson came out and said flat out on like podcasts or whatever, like in interviews, this is going to be in the MCU. This movie's going to be in the MCU.
Yes, I do remember that too, being a part of like confirming that that's what Sony was trying to do. That's why it took so long for Sony and Marvel to come to agreement, because Sony wanted to be a part of the MCU. And that's the reason why their negotiations have changed and why they altered so much, is because Marvel at first really didn't want the Sonyverse to be a part of the MCU, but in order to get Spider-Man, they had to make that agreement. So that's kind of why these, these kind of secretive agreements are kind of secret, is because Marvel really doesn't want the Sonyverse to really be attached to it, but at the same time, they have to in order to keep their agreement with Sony.
Yeah, and hey, why not make the best out of the situation, right? Like if if you're going to be, stuck in a certain like, kind of a crappy deal, why not make the most out of it? And that's why I just wonder, as much as Perry, I get what you're talking about, how they're going in a different direction with Venom. I love Tom Hardy. He's great. He's a great actor. I think he could play any role, any character, and be good at it, to be honest with you. I've never seen him do anything bad before. Like everything I've ever seen with him in it was great. But I feel like ultimately, like, I mean, look, the MCU needs a Morbius too. So I get where Cyber's coming from with the whole thing with Morbius being that connective tissue. Like, I really kind of get where he's coming from with that. But My last comment with this is just basically that on this topic is just that, again, like I said, Perry, do you think that the money is what's more important at the end of the day, or do you think that like that there's a possibility that they could actually put something together for the fans?
I mean, I don't think that they completely like throw away fan opinion. They wouldn't be where they're at if they did. But I think when it comes down to it, like Sony banks on having these properties.
Yes.
And they're not going to let go of anything at all. Like they're not going to sell. They're not going to sell the company. Like they're not going to do what 20th Century Fox did. Because
I'll tell you right now, if Disney bought Sony at this point, it would honestly be getting to a point with this stuff with Disney and these acquisitions where I would start to be like, you know what, this is getting kind of like monopolized almost.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Yeah, I don't think that deal would go through. I think that the trade commission would.
I mean, I'm still shocked to this day that that Disney bought Marvel Studios. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, like, I know it was a long time ago, but it's kind of crazy in a way. You know what I mean? At that point, it would be like, it just would, to me, from what I've heard, if the rumors are true, which of course they're probably not, but if the rumors are true, then like Sony's already given like Disney and ask like a price on what they want to like sell the rights to the Spider-Man character and everything and all the other characters back, and it's astronomical.
I would believe that. That sounds about right. So, Livestream land, we want to thank you for watching us tonight. We're going to be closing up now. We've had a really great evening. It was great to have our trio back. Of course, you can find, Mr. Perry on his podcast, the Off Podcast on YouTube. You can check that out on him. He's awesome. He's amazing. He's a great guest. It's always enjoyed having him as our co-host. It's great to have him back in a couple episodes of the recent weeks. So it's been great to have you, Perry. Thanks for coming on. And of course, yeah, so proud.
Oh, just the energy tonight was like things were more fun than they have been like for weeks. Honestly, Perry, it was just nice to have you back.
You guys are making me blush.
Oh goodness. Oh goodness! It's too dark in your room to see you blushing, sir.
Man. Me and Cyber are just happy to see your face.
Well, I'm happy to see you guys too. I'm glad I've been able to like come back for a couple weeks ago. I was back, and then with this one, I was excited to come back and talk to you guys about it.
Well, we ended up going an hour and 50 just because like we all enjoy talking to each other so much. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, so you know what? Like at the end of the day, that's the most important thing.
Most certainly. So, and like I said before, people, you can find me on YouTube, of course, as well, under Cyberneticshark. You can find me on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, anywhere you can look. You can see my solo stuff there. You can also see the MCU'S Bleeding Edge stuff there. You can find us on our website, the MCU'sBleedingEdge.org. You can, of course, find Mr. Jeff Sloboda, of course, on all the same sites and so forth as well. You can find us both on the amazing and fun Rizzle, where we post stuff usually pretty regularly. You can find a lot of Dune stuff on there, which is really awesome, and all that kind of cool stuff and stuff like that. Is there anything you would like to plug, Mr. Perry? Maybe a little bit about your band real quick, where we can find, where we can listen to you or anything like that?
Yeah, sure. Why not? If you want to listen to us, we right now we've only put out we only have our covers. It's a cover band right now, but we're slowly writing stuff right now. And if you do want to go hear us, we're on YouTube at Up the River. I think the handle is at Up the River Band. But you'll see our logo. It says Up the River. It looks like a 80s font. It's really you can go check us out. And then over the course of hopefully the next few months, we're going to start really recording our original stuff and start putting that out to the world and see where that goes.
Wait
Awesome.
till Cyber, you want to see Perry blush? Wait till we play some of Perry's music on the show.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's great, Perry. Definitely keep that in mind. Everyone out there in the live stream land, definitely check out Up the River Band. It's a cool band. I've listened to his music, the covers that they've done at some of their live shows. It's really awesome. They do a great job, guys. So definitely check them out too as well. You're welcome. And as always, people want to thank everyone for in the comments. Want to thank everyone for watching. And this is the MCU's Bleeding Edge going out, and we'll see you next week.